Among the many new revelations, the IG report blasts former FBI Director James Comey for how he handled the Hillary Clinton email probe, saying he broke protocol. The White House is responding to stunning developments.
The president was briefed on the IG report earlier today, and it reaffirmed the president's suspicions about Comey's conduct and the political bias among some of the members of the FBI.
Outnumbered.
All right, let's bring in special report anchor Brett Baer. Brett, I'm sure you have not read the entire thing, or you're probably making your way through it.
You know how many trees we've killed, Jesse? I mean, we're all printing it. 568
pages. And I'm sure you're all reading it.
So tell me, just
Dana did.
What really jumps out at you so far from what you've seen from the report?
One, the big loser, James Comey. This IG really goes after the former FBI director for his decision-making. Two, the other loser, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and those text messages that surface, more of them in this report, the biggest of which will be, I'm sure, grasped upon by President Trump and his supporters, and that is 7 words. That is an answer to a text from Lisa Page to Peter Strzok. Trump's never going to become president, right? Right. And Strzok then responds, no, he won't. We'll stop it. Well, that in and of itself, even though we don't have the full context of what they're talking about there, just that in a vacuum will create major fuel to the issue of what was happening behind the scenes. The other thing, though, to note is that overall at 30,000 feet, the IG says that they couldn't document political bias within the FBI on the decisions made early in the Clinton email case. It does raise questions, though, about the bias that they did find and how that affects the case after July, when the FBI Director Comey comes out with that news statement.
Yeah, and it seems like the report really tees up the next IG report about the Russia investigation, especially off of these new Page-Strzok texts. Let's take it around the table. Kimberly Guilfoyle.
All right. So, Brett, I think there was a lot of, people saying there's going to be significant evidence in here. It's obviously quite voluminous. But in terms of the level of discussion that preceded this, do you think that the takeaway, what you're hearing from behind the scenes, is that this was something that they overpromised, underdelivered, or how would you characterize it?
Yeah, I think, first of all, depending on your political point of view,
right,
if you're just talking pure politics, you'll look at this and there'll be people who say, oh, it's a nothing burger, and there'll be other people who say it's really chock full of damning things. I think what you'll hear from the FBI Director, Chris Wray, is that this is a big problem within the FBI, and they're going to probably announce some kind of action that they're taking.
They should.
If you look at Trey Gowdy and what he put out in this statement that he put out, he says he's alarmed, angered, and deeply disappointed, and goes on to detail in pretty scathing terms what he sees. And he's a guy who's defended the FBI even in the most recent Spygate stuff.
Well, Juan Williams took a really good day to take off, and we have Marie Harf in his place. Marie, take it away.
Hi, Brett. Well, Jim Comey already responded in a New York Times op-ed where he endorsed the IG's efforts but said he disagreed with some of the findings in it. What do you think's next for Jim Comey? Does he keep speaking out? Does he go quiet? Is he investigated further by DOJ? What happens for him next?
I bet you he kind of goes into the night. It's interesting that he's out of the country at the time the IG report is coming out. He obviously made his rounds on the media, including on Special Report. He made the book tour. He kind of laid the groundwork for his defense, and obviously has this letter to the New York Times. But the stuff in here suggests that he made some big mistakes in the eyes of the Inspector General of the Justice Department. And no matter if you look at it from a Clinton perspective, that there are folks who think he cost Hillary Clinton the election, or a Trump perspective and how he dealt with President Trump after the election.
I mean, he took it on the chin. I mean, they said he committed serious violations of FBI policy and process, and then damaged the credibility of the investigation and the institution itself. So pretty tough stuff coming out of the IG report. Dana?
Well, Brett, in James Comey's statement in reaction to this right away, first a tweet and then an op-ed in the New York Times, he says, look, I respect the IG. I think they did a great work here. Reasonable people can disagree, so he's moving on. Now, the Strzok's attorney, he did put out a statement as well, but he didn't address these text messages, and I'm curious if you think that that might happen. And then my other question is, Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, had a lot of bipartisan support, lots of credibility across administrations. Congressman Ratcliffe said today that he has read the report, he's been briefed on it, and he still maintains confidence in Michael Horowitz, which I guess means that this next IG report, which is on the actual Clinton emails themselves, and that investigation would at least have some credibility.
Yeah, and I think these are questions that I'm going to ask Chairman Gowdy and Goodlatte, and they'll be on in the next hour on Special Report. I think that there is a lot here that tees up, as Jesse mentioned, the next iteration of the IG's efforts. And the second text, the part that says, no, he won't be president, we'll stop it, that was just released in the past few days, weeks. And the first part, where the question is asked, will he be president, was released, but the second part was not. You know, that tells you something about transparency and where this document back and forth is going up with Capitol Hill and oversight. I think, to your point, people will look at this, and there'll be Republicans who look at it and say it just didn't deliver, and I think others will look at it and say there's a lot in here yet to be mined.
Okay, and now from the Five's Inspector General, Greg Gutfeld.
This is a stunning read, Brett. It's blowing my mind. Hey, I heard a rumor that the FBI is going to change their name to FWB, Feds with Benefits. Is that true?
There is a section in the IG report that deals specifically with that, about tickets from media organizations and invites to golf outings. And yes.
I do have a serious question. There was a part there where we found out that Comey used his private email to conduct, I think it was non-classified business, which may be why he couldn't damn Hillary for doing the same thing, because it's like mutually assured destruction. Everybody's guilty of doing the same thing. Could that be part of the reason why he decided not to proceed further?
I tell you what, you're trying to be funny, but these are two really good nuggets of the report that had not been kind of put out there. Comey is using a private email, even though it's unclassified, to deal with the email investigation of Hillary Clinton. And the IG says that's not a good thing. I've got the Gutfeld diaries over here, and I've been looking through them.
Frightening.
Oh, no, sorry.
You're on page 70.
All right, Brett.
Yes.
You don't want to be in Gutfeld's diary. That's the last place you want to be. But nice job with the interview the other day of the president.
Yeah, very nice.
And we will be looking forward to 6 p.m. for another great special report.
All right, see you guys. All
right, Kimberly, like we talked about, some of these nuggets that are coming out, and it's going to take probably another 24 hours to get all of them. Her emails were penetrated by a foreign agent. And that we really didn't know, because Comey himself said it was possible that that happened, and now we learn that it actually did happen. And one of those emails was considered secret, which means disclosure of that email reasonably could be expected to cause serious damage to the national security of the United States.
Yeah, I think this is significant, because much was made at the time. Oh, well, it's possible, but there was no nailing it down. But obviously, they knew and were not honest about it. And essentially, what I call that is a cover-up. Like, why, if you knew that, in fact, that they had been penetrated and they had been read, et cetera, by or accessed by a foreign agent, that is significant. It is a security breach of the highest order, and something that is very disconcerting for us for national security. But there you go. Hillary Clinton, the rules of law do not apply to her or to Mr. Comey. Birds of a feather flocking together.
Right, another weasel move by the director. Marie, some of the nuggets that I'm really interested in deal with Strzok, because they keep coming. We'll stop it, meaning we'll stop the Trump presidency. When you pair that with they need to protect the country from Donald Trump, and we need an insurance policy in case he is elected. And now FBI agents are calling Trump supporters retarded. At least 5 FBI agents exchanging anti-Trump, pro-Hillary text messages. The IG says there was willingness to take official action to impact Trump's electoral prospects. That sounds pretty serious to me.
It does, and I think they demonstrated incredibly bad judgment. But the IG also found that there was no evidence that political bias or improper motivation affected the Hillary email investigation. So what I've always said is these people should not have been doing this. It was stupid. It looks bad, and the IG actually found that it looked bad. It called into question the investigation's impartiality, but there's no evidence that their personal views impacted it.
Yeah, because they're not dumb enough to leave a paper trail,
Well, but
except Strzok and Page.
you and a lot of folks on the conservative side have been waiting for this report and basically putting a lot of faith in what comes out of it. They found very clearly, I think so.
Because I think we've been downplaying it. We said it was probably going to be a big airball. But go ahead.
I think it's important. This is selective history. It's fake news. I think that it's important that they did not find evidence that political bias impacted the investigation. They also found that they had no ability to prosecute Hillary Clinton under the 5 statutes they examined. So I'm not an attorney, but the Department of Justice looked into the question that a lot of Republicans and Trump supporters keep bringing up and found, in fact, that they did the right thing here.
That's actually not true. What the IG report says, Dana, is that witnesses, meaning prosecutors at the DOJ or FBI investigators, didn't think that this would be a prosecutable case. It doesn't mean the IG concluded that that was the fact. It just meant some attorneys disagreed.
Well, and to further that, I think one of the things Comey did was, so the IG says insubordinate, or insubordination, but who did that really benefit? Right. It benefited Loretta Lynch, who was the Attorney General, because he then took it out of her hands for making a charging decision that I'm sure President Obama and Loretta Lynch did not want to do to their nominee.
Of course.
But this gets me back to the original point of how do we even know any of this? Why have we spent so much time and so much money on all of this? And it goes back to Hillary Clinton's decision to subvert the process, to have her own email system, to have a private server. And we are still, that was in 2015 that we found out. It is 2018. And we have spent 500 pages.
Why doesn't she pay it back?
Now,
she should be sent a
what you
bill.
might say is that at least she uncovered this, Strzok and Page email situation and their bias against the president. I don't know.
We've been looking backwards for a long time on this show.
Yeah.
I remember we said, I don't know when it was, when she was like talking about gender, and it's not about the female, it's about the email.
Right.
And that's what we kept saying. A couple of
What
points.
What a smart show this is.
Yes, it is.
Sounds like the White House.
How amazing it must be to be Anthony Weiner. He might be one of the few people who's happy he's in jail. Because the fact is, if it wasn't for his laptop and his lap, Trump wouldn't have been elected. And we should be thanking Anthony Weiner. He kept Hillary out of office. It's really about him and Huma. But I will say,
there they are.
Also, it is amazing. Again, this is more evidence that Donald Trump can turn people into emotional high school freshmen. Strzok and Page, they were like the characters in the David Bowie song Heroes. They're up against the wall. They're fighting. They're going to stop Trump and do anything they can. It was so deeply emotional for them. They were like star-crossed lovers in a romantic song. One final point.
Hollywood starlets. They're behaving like liberal Hollywood.
Exactly. I think it's weird timing that the day that this report comes out, the media gets a gift in the state of New York suing Trump over the Trump Foundation. It's incredibly well played. And
That's a coincidence.
No, it's not. It's party and media working hand in hand, and it's just, to me, just so obvious and wrong.
It is. And to Greg's
someone's got to go to jail.
About Carlos Danger, they found that they sat on these emails for I think a month, and Strzok was behind those, slow walking those up to James Comey's office.
Yeah, when you see this, it's really sad, isn't it, though? We read this and you become almost desensitized, but this is really egregious. You're talking about, the FBI that is, held to the highest regard in terms of justice and supposed to be truth-seeking and fact-finding without any ideological bent. And you see people here that were only hell-bent on undermining the Trump campaign and preventing a presidency. You see a candidate in Hillary Clinton that completely just disregarded the law, destruction of evidence, and really just creating a situation that undermines the confidence not only in our political process and campaigns and elections, but in our highest investigatory agencies. And what you're seeing here is a modified, redacted report by Ron Rosenstein, who was allowed to do this, and he's actually in the middle of all of it. So how is this, coming at it with clean hands? We actually don't know what all the evidence is because some of it has been removed.
Well, and I think some members of Congress are trying to request the original drafts of the documents before they were changed or allowed to have been looked at by other people.